lounging, son.
Welcome back to the Comic Lounge. My name's Ryan.
And I'm Manny.
And we have one of our favorite writers back on the show. We got Mr. Mark Waid. A lot of cool stuff. Just since the last time we talked, which wasn't even, I feel like it wasn't even that long ago. We talked right before Shazam was coming out, and a couple of new announcements came. So I wanted to get you back on and kind of pick your brain on those. So welcome back.
Sure, thanks. Happy to be here.
Yeah. So before we get into it, World's Finest issue 13, right? No, 15.
15
15 dropped yesterday, Tuesday. I know it's different depending on which store you're going to. What a great issue, man. I've been loving this arc.
Thanks. Yeah, I just picked mine up like 30 minutes ago. And I just read it, so it was great.
Thanks. I'm glad you enjoyed it. I mean, Dan Moore is killing it on this book, and Tamara Bonvillain doing the coloring. I mean, the whole team is coming together.
Oh, it's so good. I love how you have this way of like mining the history of DC that I just love. So it's like all these little things, all these little characters that you'll bring out. Let's talk a little bit. I just want to like catch everybody up. So this arc basically, you got Metamorpho, Stag's dead, and Bruce Wayne is framed for the murder.
Right.
Where did that idea kind of come from?
Yeah. Well, I've wanted to do something with Metamorpho for a long time. I love that character. And I thought I had something new to say with him, which is why we redid the origin in the first issue of the arc, where it's exactly the same origin, but it's a lot more grim a look at it. It's a lot more realistic a look at what it would be like to have his origin, and playing up the idea that a lot of people just completely forget, which is that he's Metamorpho. He can't just turn into any element on the periodic table, because if that were the case, then why doesn't he just turn into plutonium every time he fights a villain? He wins instantly. He can only turn into things that he's scrambled. He's not transformed. Everything in his body is still there element-wise, but it's been scrambled around so that he's only the human element. The human body has about 12 main elements in it, like iron and oxygen and so forth, and then about 30 other trace elements. So he can turn into these elements or combinations thereof. And I wanted to hit that note. I just kind of wanted to underscore that about Metamorpho, because everybody's forgotten that. And then having a new take on his origin was really why I wanted to get into this. And also any chance to get Dan Moore to draw different, and more characters in the DC universe, the better.
Yeah, I mean, because I love Metamorpho. I love I hate calling them like B-list, C-list characters, but I like the characters that don't get the shine normally. Yeah. So I loved when I found out Metamorpho was going to be a main part of the story arc. I mean, you got the Metal Men in here creating a suit around
Batman.
About Batman, and you got Doom Patrol making cameos. I mean, it's just like just from reading it, Challengers of the Unknown.
I was going to say the Challengers. Yeah,
I mean, it just like the joy that you must have writing these scripts and then getting the pages back from Dan, I can just only imagine.
I'm having the time of my life. I don't know that I've ever had a better time doing comics than right now.
Yeah, I mean, you're like I told you last time, you've been firing on all cylinders. This is one of my favorite books, period. Not just favorite DC books, but I enjoy every week that this comes out. Then you got Shazam coming.
Yeah.
I mean, like that first issue was just, like chef's kiss, knock out of the park.
Thank you. And again, Dan Mora, holy smokes, so good.
I know, he's so fast.
And insanely fast, crazy fast.
I wanted to mention that, like, unlike Ryan, I haven't been reading World's Finest since it started. Like, this was actually my first issue, but I found it so easy to jump right in,
Good.
and like, so like, I feel like we don't see a lot of that in comics, and you're writing a title that's like pretty much steeped in like DC, like history and lore, like, because to me, this seems like you could easily hand this to anybody and they'll have fun reading it. Like, how is it that you accomplish that using so many like deep cuts at the same time? It seems like a tight balancing act. But
it's the goal. I mean, you can do it a long arc, but even within a long arc, every issue should feel like it's a complete sort of unit of entertainment to get all clinical, but there's like a conflict and a resolution in every installment, so that you don't feel like you're just reading part 4 of 6 and nothing really happened. I also take pride in my ability to sort of summarize what last issue was without it stopping the momentum of the story dead in its tracks. And
very good, yeah.
And in such a way where when you read them all at once, it doesn't feel repetitious. I think that's a big part of it too.
Yeah,
Yeah, I love that about this. So
it's rare. I feel like I don't feel like you see it as much. I feel like, and I think that's some of the complaints with readers nowadays, whether it's newer readers or older readers, like that it feels like, well, why am I buying the single issue? Because it just feels like a part, like you said, like a part 4 of 6 or whatever. So why not just wait for the trade? But like that is not the case with this book. And already from Shazam, like that's not the case from that. And I feel like it's always been in your work where like you can jump in anywhere and you're in.
It is, kind of an old school talent, but I'm very proud of it. I'm with you. I wish that more people did it that way, but there are a lot of people in comics who are way more successful than I do who don't do it. So it's not the only way to do it.
Right. I mean, yeah, there's ways to do everything. I just this is my preferred way of reading. I think it's probably because like I've been reading comics for such a long time, so that's just how comics were when I got into it. Like you were jumping in issue 300 whatever, and like there wasn't like, oh, I'll just wait for the relaunch kind of deal,
Right. Or I'll, like you said, or I'll just wait till issue 6 and buy the trade. Right.
Exactly. I want to we'll get back into World's Finest because I know there's a spinoff coming out for that, but I do want to talk about Shazam.
Sure.
How much fun this was to read. I had a smile on my face the entire I could feel myself smiling. Like just like, you have him riding a dinosaur,
Yeah,
and
page one.
Page 1.
And then wait, it's not just a regular dinosaur, like this is an alien race.
Space dinosaur. Yeah.
Yeah, so good. I mean, I'm smiling again as I'm flipping through the pages. Just what a fun comic, and like there's so few of that. I feel like there's so few comics that are just purely for the joy of comic books. It doesn't have to be bogged down with seriousness or a darkness that sometimes you'll see in some of the characters. Like this is one of the brightest characters in the history of comics, and it's all captured here. And I have to mention this before I forget this, you deal with like him. Why wouldn't he stay a superhero all the time?
Right.
Brilliant
question about him forever, which is, if I could turn into a superhero, why would I ever turn back into a regular boy? And, the answer for those who haven't read the book is he has the wisdom of Solomon. That's one of his powers, which is awesome when you're trying to solve a problem. But when you're just standing around and you've got the wisdom of Solomon, what it's doing is it's reminding you of all the things that you're not doing. It's trying to make you a better person, which means it's a constant whisper when things are quiet in the captain's ear of eat your vegetables, go to bed on time, do your homework. And that just becomes a real pain in the ass. So that's one reason why it changes back to a boy, just to get away from the voice.
I remember Manny was mentioning the podcast that Billy has. Remember?
Oh yeah. I love that. Was like such a fun little, like, bit of a detail, giving him, because obviously he would be the perfect person to have that kind of a podcast in the DCU. He's got like the enthusiasm of a kid, but he's there alongside everything. So like it's a unique idea.
Thank you.
Well, I can't believe no one's ever thought about giving a superhero a podcast. Like, I think this is the first time.
It is unique in one sense, but in the other sense, it's really just a callback to the original character, with the original interpretation of the character and the origin of stuff. Because Billy Batson had a radio broadcast when he was in the golden age of comics and in the silver age.
I didn't know that. Wow, that's awesome.
And he was a radio broadcaster, which again doesn't really feel very contemporary in the 2020s, but making him a podcaster makes perfect sense to me.
Yeah, it's so funny how like, if you would have done this maybe 20 years ago, I don't think podcasting was very big, so like it wouldn't have worked. But now it's like come full circle to where like you can be a radio star because you have a star podcast. And it's just, just all the little details, like Talkie Tawny, like sitting there cooking dinner for them. I love how you like you do these books where it's not nostalgic, like you toe the line, like the balance of it while also making it feel so fresh. Like that is like, to me, that's your signature.
Thank you.
Do it every time. It doesn't feel like this fan service. It doesn't feel nostalgia. It's the love of the characters and the the world, but also making it feel inclusive to everybody, whether you're a fan of the Golden Age stuff or you're a new reader. And it's
thank you. I take great pride in that too, and it's definitely my lane. Traditionally, comics have not rewarded that very well. Comics fans have not rewarded that sort of writing in the past, because a lot of people just look at that and go, it's just It's just nostalgia for the past. But no, it's not. It's not that at all. I'm not trying to recreate comics like they were when I was growing up and reading them, because they still exist. I can go get those. I don't need to recreate those. What I want to do is take the feelings that I had when I was reading those comics as a kid and convey those same feelings of excitement and joy to new readers. That's it.
I wanted to talk too about like the fact that you're clearing the deck, so to speak, where like Billy's the only one with the power.
Right.
What was the like thought behind that? Why did you want to go that route with the character?
Generally, when I take on a series, whether it's Flash or Daredevil or whoever, one of the things I tend to do is move the supporting cast off stage for a couple of issues, just so I can get in the rhythm of the character, right? Just so I can feel like I've got a good handle on the main character. Once I do that, I get a chance to then bring in the side characters, because it gives me a chance to sort of stew on them and think about them as I go. With the kids, they're definitely still going to be in the book. I mean, they show up in force in issue 2 and in issue 3, and they're still a part of Billy's life. But it's hard for me it's hard not to write it as a team book. If they all have the same power and they're all a tight-knit family, then as we've, like in the movies, it's not really about the main character. It's about the whole family, which is great. That's an interpretation that works. That's certainly an interpretation that worked for Jeff Johns. It is a valid interpretation, but it's not something that I'm excited about, because I don't think it gives me a chance to drill down specifically on Billy and give you a sense of who that character is. If I have to give service every issue to the other 4 kids and their powers, then it becomes crowded,
I've got a quick question.
Yeah, go.
Since you're working with Dan Mora on both Shazam and World's Finest, like, is there a different approach to each book and how you guys work together? Or I mean, because the vibe for each book is different, so I would imagine you would.
There is a different process. With World's Finest, it's very traditional. I write a script, I hand it in, he does breakdowns and we talk about them. And if he's got better ideas as he goes, God bless him, let's do it his way. I mean, as long as we're telling the same story, he doesn't have to be an art robot. He just interprets the story however he wants, but it's still, a panel by panel breakdown of the script and with all the dialogue. With Shazam, because he's such a good storyteller, I asked him, do you want to take a more of an active role in the storytelling? Do you want, if I did, more of a plot dialogue method where I give him a breakdown of the scenes and the issues, and here's the things we have to hit this issue, then go off and draw it, and I'll go back and add dialogue later to refine it as the pages come in. And that's the Shazam method, and it seems to be working out really well. And as you say, it gives the book a slightly different vibe, which is
and I noticed the credit it says for Shazam, it says Mark Waid and Dan Mora storytellers. It's like slightly cool.
Yeah, I think it's interesting too, because also this week I just realized, I forgot what day it was, that I got my books a little early. So the books so as we're talking, the books probably are at some stores, probably aren't coming out till tomorrow. But Dan Mora also had a story that he wrote in the Batman Brave and the Bold. Did he kind of ask you for any writing tips, or did he? I'm just curious, because I think it's his first written thing.
He knows what he's doing. My biggest fear about Dan is that he will realize he's a good writer and not need me anymore. That day's coming. Will it be a month from now? Will it be a year from now? Who knows? But I will hang on to him for as long as I can.
Yeah, if Dan hears this, please stay with Mark for as long as possible, because I'm loving this stuff. Look, there's just a certain synergy when 2 creators come together and there's magic happens. It's like that happened with you and Wieringo. That's happened with you in Samnee, that's happened with you and so many other creators that just I hope you guys do stuff for a long time to come.
Me too. I mean, I'm he can look, he can cross the street every once in a while and, do something over here, over there, but I need him to stay in the yard most of the
time. Yeah. So like I said, there's a spinoff of World's Finest, which I was completely stoked to hear, the World's Finest Teen Titans with Emmanuel Lupacino. How did that project come about, and why revisit that era of Teen Titans, of any spinoff that could come?
Sure. Well, I mean, part of it is that we've just had so much fun using the Titans in World's Finest. And the way Dan redesigned them looks so interesting and so contemporary without in any way abandoning their Silver Age looks. That combined with the fact that I love those characters gave DC editorial the idea, hey, we're doing world's finest Batman and Superman. Do we want to start to create sort of a corner franchise out of this? And if so, what do we do first? And Teen Titans, because they linked to world's finest so heavily, made perfect sense. Also, like I said, I love those characters. So, the process was much the same as it is on a lot of projects I take on, which is I just sit down and with no one to read it. And just for my own purposes, I'll start writing, not scripts, but writing about the characters and the feel of the book and just sort of like a memo to me about my manifesto on the book. And so as I start to write about these characters, even though I know them incredibly well, as I start to write about, say, the relationship between Kid Flash and Speedy, what is that relationship? And as I'm writing, new ideas come up to me, new things, new angles appear to me as I write, and seeing how things tie together and this and that, and it becomes sort of I write my own map, and in doing so, all these new ideas for stories just spring up as I go, and so that's the fun of doing this book. Is you got six with Bumblebee, really strong characters. How do they interact with each other? There's not as much punching in this book as maybe a regular Titans book, because a lot of it is the team dynamics and the stresses within that team. They're not the Justice League. They're not, all super happy people all the time with each other. And they're not always besties. So that's fun to write.
Yeah, for me, first of all, I love it anytime you write Wally West, but I particularly am excited about this book too, because this is an era of Titans that I'm not as familiar with. Like, I got into, when I was reading Titans, it was getting into the back issues of like Perez and Wolfman stuff,
Right.
So I know that team. So what kind of stories are you planning to? I know you said, they've always kind of had more of a family team dynamic, like you said,
Right.
than the Justice League. That's what kind of makes them stand apart. But how about this? Are there any characters that you're writing? Obviously, you've written Wally a lot, right? Mm-hmm. As an adult. Are there any characters that you find writing that you are becoming fond of that maybe you didn't have as much of a connection to before?
Yes, Speedy. Speedy's going to be the star of Teen Titans, not intentionally, but just because I realized there's so much depth to that character that I never really thought about before, and how he meshes with the other characters, because he's like them. He's a kid's sidekick, but one of the things that makes him different is that the other kids have mentors who are very invested in what they do and very hands-on. Not Speedy. Green Arrow is a good guy, but he sees Speedy as so grown up already and so capable already that he's got a very laissez-faire attitude toward being a parent, and that has an impact on Speedy. And it tends to make him a little more arrogant, a little more bombastic, because he's covering for a lot of insecurities. So that's the kind of stories we're telling, actually. There are villains that show up. None of it's a retelling of old stories. It's really just, here's stuff that sort of fits in between the old stories if you want to keep those stories intact in your head. But they're really character first stories. And then, like the third issue is Titans Con. It's them, coming to terms with their own celebrity and realizing that there's a convention devoted specifically to them. And so they're going to go visit it and just make everybody go nuts. And there's a villain that shows up, but frankly, that's not, to me, the interesting part of the book. The interesting part of the book is just watching these teenage kids realize they are super famous. They're not just famous, they are super famous for the first times in their lives. And what does that do to them is, everybody reacts differently.
That's awesome. I just can't wait for this book. What's the plan for it? Is this going to be a mini series? Are you not allowed to say it? Is this ongoing? Is this like kind of play it by ear?
It's tentatively approved for 6 issues, but if we do well, DC has a history lately with like Poison Ivy and other books like that of saying, okay, well, you know what, just run with it. Or conceivably, we do 6 issues and then we do 6 issues a few months later and sort of do it like season by season. So nothing's really carved in stone yet. We're approaching it as 6 issues, but I have no doubt in my mind that even if we only get 6 issues in this first run, there's plenty of chances and opportunities for us to keep doing these characters, whether it's in another series or whether it's in a sequel series or whatever. I mean, this is not the only chance that we're going to have to do this book.
Any
and
other?
Let me just jump in and say Emma Lupacino. Oh, it's chef's kiss. I mean, she's so good at this, and she is such a great storyteller. She loves these characters, and the like the acting, the life, the facial expressions, they're real characters, and so that makes it much easier to do these character oriented stories.
I was gonna say, are there any other, besides of the Titans, like any other characters or concepts you'd like to fold into like the world's finest like idea or like
they're one of world's finest eyes? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good way to put it. Yeah.
There's a few. I mean, it's not going to be characters that I've done before. Like I'm not interested in doing like a Wally West,
right? Yeah,
the world's finest book or whatever, because I've already been there and I've said a lot of what I want to say about Wally, but and I don't think there's room for like a world's finest Superman book, because that sort of takes the thunder away from the ongoing Superman book. So you want to concentrate on characters that don't have their own place right now. But there's a huge list. I mean, really, awesome. Any that I could do, that I want to do. And if we get, it may take us a while to get around to all of them, but I think this is at least for the time being, this is a franchise that we can keep expanding.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, I'm on board. I'm gonna, I'm added to my pull list. Gonna go back and read it because I was so impressed by this issue. That.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's, to me, like when I found out Teen Titans was gonna get one, I'm like, oh, this is kind of like almost like doing All-Star or the Ultimate line, but having it be connected, not having it be something that's like completely done, redoing everything. No, you're doing it to where like it's very inclusive. It's very like entry level. I hate to say entry level, but very entry level kind of point for readers.
And yet the challenge with World's Finest, but we've been able to fulfill it so far, is making sure that even though it's set in the past, even though it's in continuity, but not in the main current continuity that's happening right now, there's still a lead out on these stories when you're all said and done that will connect it to the main DC universe today. With the first one, it was the connection to Lazarus Planet. With the second one, we know the connection was to Kingdom Come. With the third one, there's going to be a connection to Shazam. And so, tell the stories, tell them complete, make them feel like you can sit down and really make a meal out of it. But at the end of it, if there's an extra special way to Easter egg something that will show up later in the DC universe in the ongoing books, in the main books, so much the better, because then the book counts, right? It's not like it's over there in the corner and you don't have to read it. No, it's part of the DC universe.
I hate that. I hate that people like have that like
outlook
of it counting. It's either a good comic or it's not a good comic.
I feel the same way. I have to bow to the realism of the situation. Yeah.
I totally get it. So Teen Titans, what kind of connection is that gonna have?
It's a villain connection. That's all I can say at this point. But there's something planned. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, let's get into this next announcement that was announced same day. I think it was the same day. Superman: The Last Days of Lex Luthor. I love this. Lex Luthor's dying. Superman has to save him, and nobody else wants him to be saved. I mean, what a great concept. I feel like you also mentioned that it was like a spiritual successor to Birthright.
Right. It was, I mean, it's not technically a sequel, but I guess what I'm saying when I say spiritual successor or spiritual sequel is that my interpretation of those characters, who Superman is, who Lex Luthor is, what their relationship is, both as boys and today, is the same in Last Days of Lex Luthor as it was in Birthright. So if you read Birthright, you can get a better, you might have an advanced idea of why Superman is so invested in saving Lex, even though he's the world's greatest villain. And there's sort of a debt that Superman feels that isn't obvious, but if you've read Birthright, it's a little more obvious.
And so how did this whole I mean, obviously, look, behind you is Superman on the wall. Your hat is, I know you love Superman.
I do love Superman.
So I am so stoked for this book. Black Label, are you approaching this book differently with it being under the Black Label imprint, as opposed to if it were, I guess, in the main line?
A little. I mean, I'm not. There's not any extra sex. There's not any
Oh yeah.
extra. There's not, Superman's not dropping the F bomb, and it's none of that kind of stuff. It's more philosophical. It's more getting into in sort of a slightly deeper level than you normally would in the monthly book. The motivations behind these characters, the reasons that Superman won't kill, it gives me a chance to really get a little bit deeper and more adult with the characterizations. That's the Black Label part of it, basically.
Yeah, so the approach to just writing him in general as a character is completely different than any way you've ever written him before.
Yeah, not completely different, but just deeper, I think.
Okay. And Brian Hitch, was that a choice? Was that your choice? I mean, dude, like,
yeah.
I can only imagine like the scope that he's gonna do, because he does that, like, he's one of the best to ever do it in terms of like very cinematic, very big scope.
Right. Well, it's. I mean, this project's been in development for like 5 or 6 years, because I was originally approached by DC editors to work up something, and then the previous editorial administration wasn't interested, and so we sent it to Brian Hitch in case he would be interested, and he signed on immediately. And the previous editorial administration still was uninterested. So once the administration changed and there were new opportunities for me to come back to DC, that was the first thing that got greenlit. So it's been stewing for a long time. Brian drew the first issue maybe 2 years ago.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
that's crazy. What is the process like when you're working with him as opposed to Dan Mora then?
It's a little slightly different than the other two processes, which is, again, it's a full script, but his sense of pacing is different than mine. It's not better or worse. It's just interesting. And so I surrender myself more to the idea that even though I'm giving him a full script with dialogue, when the pages come back, there's opportunities for me to add things, to subtract things that maybe don't need to be there. It's a slightly different story than the one I turn into him, but it's still good and it looks fantastic. And so I'm willing to make that compromise, because what you get out of it is much better than what goes into it.
And is there any moments in that book that you think will kind of surprise or shock readers?
Shock and surprise, maybe not. Well, yeah, issue 3, actually, yes, issue 3 will very much surprise people. But, even going in issues 1 and 2, they're less about shock and surprise and more about, we talked about why Billy turns back into Captain Marvel or into himself rather than being Captain all the time. Mm-hmm. That's the kind of stuff that we get into a lot more with issues 1 and 2, which is, okay, here's a look at a part of Superman's world that we've never really looked at from this angle before. Because part of the goal of this, part of the joy of doing Last Days of Lex Luthor, is that they're searching the universe for a cure for Lex, which means we get to go to all the fun places in the Superman mythos. We get to go to the Bottle City of Kandor. We get to go to the future with the Legion of Superheroes. We get to go to Atlantis with Lori Lemaris, his first love. And there's a take on each of those places that you've never seen Superman articulate before, a way of looking at it, a way of behaving in that world, a way of seeing that environment that you've never seen before, that we've never heard before in comics. That's the fun of it.
I can't wait. Yeah, I'm very excited for this book. I mean, like I said, like, first of all, I love Birthright. Birthright's one of my favorite Superman stories. So, like, even just hearing that it was somewhat of a spiritual successor, I love that, readers also get a little bit of a leg up in terms of what to expect. So with all those projects, obviously you're very busy. I have to mention, though, you are writing a Wally story. I would imagine it's Wally, right? In the Flash 800.
Actually, it's an Impulse story.
Oh wow!
Oh, okay. Can you talk a little bit about it? I thought it would be Wally. I'm happier that it's Bart.
Here's the thing: I don't want to write Wally again, because I love that character. But all people are going to do is read it and either go, it's pretty good, or it's not as good as his old stuff. And I don't want to, that's a trap you can easily fall into. So
Sure.
he's in the story. He and Max are both in the story. It's basically Max and Flash have been caught by the Mirror Master, and only Impulse can save them. But it doesn't go well because it's Impulse, and it's set specifically during the Humberto Ramos run. So it's set specifically during the first, say, dozen issues of Impulse back in the day.
Oh, I'm
That's
so
awesome.
excited. I love that
yeah.
run.
Ted knocks
Yeah.
strong in it. It looks great. I'm very happy with the way it's turned out.
Very cool, man. I wish they would collect that. I know they did one trade worth of the Impulse stuff, but I'd really love to see them collect more of that, because I think it was one of my favorite books for like almost the entirety of that run. I mean, even past when you left, I think that it was always such a great book, such a fun book, and
thank you.
Yeah,
I look, we seem to live in an era where everything eventually gets collected, no matter what. So
yeah,
every time every solicit cycle, I'll see something and I'll go, well, clearly we've run out of stuff to reprint because this is crap, but somebody wants to read it. So there's room for all. I mean, I hope. I mean, I know there's plans to continue the Flash omnibus line. So can Impulse be far behind? Hopefully not.
Yeah, no, I'm super. I mean, like I have all the Flash by Mark Waid trades, but I mean the omnibus is definitely something I need to pick up. I love getting every version. I have all the singles of the trades. I mean, it's one of my favorite runs. And with all that said, is there anything else that you're working on? Do you have any other projects that are kind of in the pipeline that you may or may not be able to talk about?
Let's see. What have we not announced yet? There's nothing that I'm working on right now. I'm thinking that we can talk about yet, but there are, and none of them are like big bombastic projects. They're all like, here's a story here, here's a story there, but stuff we haven't announced yet. In terms of like ongoing series, there's nothing else in development. Oh wait, oh yeah, Chris Samnee. Oh yeah, that's all I want to say at this point. So that's all I can say there.
Oh man,
okay,
that's good enough for that's good enough.
Yeah, that's good enough for me too, man.
All right, well, that's such a great spot to end. I just want to thank you so much, Mark. It's always a blast and a pleasure talking with you. I could do this all day. I definitely would love to do this with you again. Maybe once one of the books drops, Teen Titans, if you want to like kind of catch up on that, I'd love to do that.
You bet.
Thank you so much.
No, my pleasure,
man.
Awesome.
You bet. Take care.
All right, take care.